When archaeologists began excavating one of the oldest cities on Earth, they were shocked to find radiation levels 50 times higher than normal. The soil didn't contain any naturally radioactive materials. There was no evidence of modern contamination, and there was no clear reason why the area should be radioactive at all. After unveiling the rest of the city, they found an explosion site. In the radius of the explosion, most of the buildings were destroyed. Their bricks were practically melted, and some parts of the stones were vitrified. They were turned to glass from the extreme heat. All of this happened 4,000 years ago in Mohenjo Daro. Mohenjo Daro is one of the oldest cities on Earth. Not only was this ancient city millennia ahead of its time, but the blast zone discovered was clear evidence that something catastrophic happened here. During excavation, historians revealed advanced plumbing systems, canals, and even hot water systems. But the real mystery was about the hundreds of bodies scattered through the streets. The corpses weren't buried in graves. Some of them were literally turned to charcoal, just lying there on the streets. Others were fused and melted into the pavement. All of these skeletons showed abnormal radiation levels. One of the first questions scientists asked was what could possibly cause such radiation thousands of years before the atomic age? What was this blast? Whatever this explosion was, it's also evident that it turned some of the pottery in the area from clay to vitrified rocks. The mineralogist Dr. Sam Iyengar confirmed that for this to happen, the temperature needs to reach at least 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit. No ancient civilization was ever capable of reaching such temperatures. So whatever happened here most likely wasn't self-inflicted. Was it a natural disaster? Or was it someone else that somehow caused this explosion? Most researchers of Mohenjo Daro started looking into ancient texts to see any mentions of explosions. After searching for months, the British researcher David Davenport found that in a Vedic text called Ranayama, there was a city named Lanka that faced massive destruction from explosions. Fires engulfed the golden palaces and chaos swept through the streets. Many researchers are drawing the parallels between the explosion described in the Ramayana and a nuclear blast. In this text, there is a weapon mentioned called Brahmastra. This weapon is considered the deadliest and most powerful ever created by the gods. Its effect is described as emitting light brighter than 1,000 suns, which is eerily similar to the flash of a nuclear weapon. Lanka's destruction by gigantic fire mirrors the massive combustion caused by a nuclear explosion. The impact of these divine weapons described includes powerful winds and tremors. This closely resembles the shockwave effects of a nuclear blast. The Ranayama also describes explosions rising into the sky and raining fire down, which is still pretty similar to the vertical rise and fallout of a mushroom cloud. In the ancient Vedic texts, there are reports of people losing hair and nails, birds falling from the sky, and contaminated water. All of this aligns with symptoms of radiation sickness and fallout zones. For me personally, the most interesting thing is how in the text there are moral warnings, just like the ones we have today. The Ramayana emphasizes the dangers and moral weight of using such weapons, similar to modern nuclear doctrine. While this text was written 2,500 years ago, there is consensus among historians that the stories told in it are much older. Some of the stories date back even before the time of Mohenjo Daro. This is a great story, and the parallels to nuclear weapons are amazing. But I believe that this time the truth lies within the city ruins and not in the ancient texts. The explosion site has a diameter of 50 meters, around 160 feet. In the blast radius, all the houses were destroyed. Needless to say, a diameter of just 50 meters is very small for nuclear weapons of today's standards. For comparison, the bomb dropped at Hiroshima caused a blast radius of 1.6 kilometers, or 1 mile. Nevertheless, a mini atomic bomb can be made with a yield of only 0.1 kilotons, and it would have such a small explosion radius. Such nuclear weapons already exist today. They are called tactical nukes, and we developed them during the Cold War to scare off the enemy, but they were never officially used. The ancient nuclear blast hypothesis is contested with the argument that the radiation from such a small atomic bomb can't last for 4,000 years. While this is 100% correct, it's correct only for uranium-fueled nuclear weapons. If the fuel used was something else, like plutonium for example, radiation can last even longer. In fact, if a nuclear weapon using plutonium exploded 4,000 years ago, 88% of the radiation levels in the area would still be detectable today. So, stemming from that, a plutonium nuclear explosion was perfectly possible. And how cool is that? A nuclear explosion 4,000 years ago. That's a great story. However, there are a few other things to consider to determine whether that actually happened, or if it was something else. After a plutonium nuclear explosion, we usually find leftover decay products in the soil like americium-241 and Pu-241. We would also see highly localized radiation hotspots and fallout glass that's called trinitite. And the radiation levels of a plutonium explosion of this size would possibly be much higher than just 50 times the usual. Unless the bomb was super advanced and the majority of the plutonium was used in the explosion super efficiently. If that was the case, we wouldn't find much fallout product. Now, out of these four conditions, we found only the fallout glass. There are no decayed products in the soil, no radiation hotspots, and the radiation levels are so low that if a nuclear explosion with plutonium happened here, for these radiation levels to be correct, it should have exploded at least 12,000 years ago, and not just 4,000. According to mainstream history, this city wasn't that old. An alternative explanation to a nuclear weapon could be a meteorite. It fits the description of the Vedic texts. It's literally something falling from the sky and visible for all to see, which would explain the people in the streets dying, because they probably just went outside to look upwards and they were wondering at what's the thing in the sky approaching. A meteorite explosion explains the destruction, the vitrified stones, the burnt corpses, and the radius of the explosion. But this theory also has many gaps. No traces of the meteorite have ever been discovered in the area. Usually radioactivity in the event of a meteorite is very uniform, while in Mohenjo Daro, it varies from area to area. A meteorite may explain localized destruction. The meteorite theory is more grounded than ancient nukes or mythological weapons, but it still lacks direct physical evidence. It remains a hypothesis, it's not a proven cause. For me, the simplest explanation is usually the correct one. The main question we ask should be what could cause a huge explosion in this area, so huge that leaves behind vitrified stone, scorched corpses, but without all the nuclear signatures. And there's one explanation, and it's hiding right beneath our feet. Now, this is my own theory, but I think it holds its ground against the meteorite and nuclear blast theories. Do you know what else, aside from nuclear blasts, leaves circular blast zones? Methane explosions. Mohenjo Daro was built on the floodplains of the Indus River. It's an organic-rich environment with thousands of years of plant and animal decay trapped in sediment. A few thousand years ago, this was practically one of the most organically active spots on Earth. What many people don't know is that the region is also geologically active. It sits on top of sedimentary basins that to this day are home to natural gas and methane reserves. The 50-meter blast zone can be explained by a methane explosion. I say that because I went through around 50 methane craters in Siberia, and most of them range between 40 and 60 meters. Moreover, some methane explosions eject vertical blowouts up to over 1,000 feet. It's entirely possible that thousands of years ago, a pocket of methane built up beneath a city, sealed under layers of soil and compressed by water and sediment. This happens all the time in nature. But if that gas were to find a weak point and something, even a simple cooking fire or lightning strike were to ignite it, there goes the entire city in flames. A sudden, violent and superheated methane explosion would tear through the city like an underground fireball. It would flatten buildings within a narrow radius. I feel like methane could be a possible explanation because the vitrified remains are only found near the center of the blast radius. If this was a nuclear explosion, temperatures would have reached much higher, resulting in more vitrified stones across a larger area. My methane hypothesis doesn't cover just one of the points in the story, radiation, but that point was never scientifically proven. There isn't a single peer-reviewed study that claims radiation was found in Mohenjo Daro. All we've heard about radiation being found is just rumors on the internet for now. But I love rumors, because sometimes they turn out to be true. We may never know for sure what ended one of the most advanced civilizations 4,000 years ago. But if you dig past the myths and legends and look at the geology and the radius of the explosion, the most plausible answer may not be from the stars, but from beneath our feet.